If you're seeing this, it's not an accident. Something within the field has drawn you here at this exact moment before midnight when the cycle resets, when the test arrives again quietly, as it always does. You might not notice it at first. It's not the kind of test that comes with questions on paper. It's the kind that appears through your reactions, your choices, your breath. And tonight, the way you meet this test determines whether you continue looping through the same timeline or step into the coherence that Tesla spoke of when he said, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." What if I told you this so-called test isn't about morality or punishment, but alignment? That the universe isn't grading you on right or wrong, but on resonance? Right now, every thought, every micro-tension in your body is broadcasting a signal to the quantum field. Most people think reality responds to their words, but in truth it responds to their frequency. Every emotional reaction is an encoded message, every breath an electromagnetic transmission. The problem is most of those transmissions are scrambled, distorted, by unconscious loops of fear, self-doubt, and overthinking. That's what keeps the same patterns repeating, the same arguments, the same losses, the same longing disguised as logic. But the field is listening differently tonight. There are moments thin as silk when time loosens its grip and something ancient begins to whisper through your awareness. You might feel it as unease or a sudden wave of remembering. Tesla knew this frequency well. He lived at the intersection between matter and the invisible currents that give it form. He understood that alignment with those currents is not a metaphor, it's a living dialogue between consciousness and creation. When you're out of tune with yourself, life feels like static. But when you realign, the static turns into symphony. This midnight is symbolic. It's the threshold between unconscious repetition and deliberate creation. And if you're seeing this now, it means your field is already trying to recalibrate. The test you face isn't external, it's vibrational. It asks one question only: can you remain coherent when everything around you becomes noise? Because coherence isn't about stillness in silence, it's about stillness within motion. Like the calm eye of a hurricane, it's the point from which all motion is organized. Imagine for a moment that the next 12 hours are a mirror. Whatever you hold in your awareness, resentment, gratitude, anxiety, peace, will reflect back amplified. This is the universe's real-time feedback system showing you your encoded frequency. The field doesn't judge, it harmonizes. If you project chaos, it mirrors chaos. If you emit coherence, it reorganizes reality around your stability. That's why Tesla spent hours in still contemplation before each invention. He was tuning the inner circuit before touching a single wire. He knew that matter rearranges itself to match the observer's state. So before midnight, you're being invited, not warned, to realign. Not to fix what's wrong, but to remember what's right within you. The test isn't about passing or failing, it's about recognition. Will you recognize the frequency you're broadcasting? Will you dare to adjust it consciously instead of reacting automatically? This is your chance to step out of the loop and into the flow. Tesla lived by the understanding that everything is vibration, and that coherence isn't achieved through force, but through awareness. In the next moments, we'll explore why you keep returning to the same experiences, how the mechanism of your reality loop actually operates, and what it means to realign your frequency before the next cycle begins. For now, just notice your breath, because that's where the signal begins. You've probably noticed that certain patterns keep repeating in your life, no matter how much effort you invest in changing them. You tell yourself, this time will be different, but somehow it isn't. The faces may change, the circumstances may look new, yet the emotional undertone, the feeling remains the same. This is what I call the reality loop, an invisible mechanism that keeps you orbiting the same experiences until you remember how to alter the signal you're emitting into the field. And this loop doesn't just happen to you, it happens through you every time your awareness contracts around a familiar state. Here's how the mechanism works. A trigger appears something small, like a message left unanswered, a tone of voice, a subtle disappointment. That trigger activates a familiar bodily sensation, maybe tightness in your chest or heat rising in your throat. You don't notice the sensation directly. You move straight into thought. They don't care, I'm failing again. It's always the same. In that instant, the body's response and the mind's story fuse into one closed loop. Breath shortens, shoulders tense, your perception narrows. From that state, you take action, perhaps defensiveness, avoidance, overexertion, and the environment responds accordingly, providing you with evidence that confirms the belief you started with. The loop closes perfectly. Trigger. body, meaning, action, evidence. Then it repeats. This is not personal failure, it's physics. Your nervous system has learned to conserve energy by automating perception. It edits out 99% of the available data and highlights only what matches your existing pattern. Imagine looking through a narrow slit instead of a window. You believe you're seeing reality, but you're only seeing what your state allows you to perceive. The mind calls it truth. Tesla would have called it frequency resonance. What you call my reality is really my resonance. You live inside the echo of your own signal. Most people attempt to escape the loop by changing the external layer. New job, new city, new partner. But if the frequency driving those choices remains the same, the field reorganizes the new into the old. The names and colors shift, but the vibration doesn't. It's like changing the film while keeping the same projector lens. Until the lens is cleaned, until the observer realigns, every picture will blur in the same way. This is the perceptual crisis of our time. Humanity has mastered external invention while neglecting internal calibration. We build technologies that amplify signals we haven't yet learned to refine. Tesla foresaw this paradox. He knew that if the mind of man could be tuned as precisely as a circuit, our world would harmonize itself. But instead we amplified noise. We mistook acceleration for evolution. And in the process, our inner field became cluttered with conflicting frequencies. Ambition mixed with fear, compassion mixed with control, longing entangled with resistance. This incoherence manifests as fatigue, indecision, emotional volatility. You wake up already reacting to yesterday's residue. Your devices pull attention before your consciousness even anchors for the day. And by breakfast, you're already broadcasting the same signal that maintained yesterday's loop. You think you're making choices, but the field is simply replaying your stored state. To escape the loop, you must do what Tesla did before every invention: pause before acting. He spent hours visualizing a device in perfect detail, not to control matter, but to reach coherence within himself, so that matter would align naturally. This is the unseen art of alignment, altering your state before altering the world. If you try to act from chaos, your results will be chaotic, no matter how noble your intent. But when you generate coherence, the field becomes your collaborator instead of your opponent. Think of the field as a mirror made of living intelligence. It doesn't obey words, it reflects vibration. Every sigh, every internal argument, every silent doubt writes a pattern into that mirror. That's why even your best ideas fail, when your frequency contradicts them. You can declare abundance while breathing scarcity. You can visualize love while tensing against vulnerability. The field will not hear your affirmations, it will hear your frequency. At the core of this crisis lies a misunderstanding of identity. You've been conditioned to believe you are your thoughts and emotions. But those are simply waves moving through your field. When you identify with them, you collapse infinite possibilities into a single reality, the one that matches your current state. You become quite literally the observer trapped by the observation. This is what the ancients called Maya illusion. Not because the world is unreal, but because your perception of it is incomplete. You experience a fragment and mistake it for the whole. The field responds to your fragment and you call that fate. But fate is simply feedback and echo inviting you to tune the signal differently. Right now the universe isn't testing your worth, it's testing your awareness. Can you notice the loop as it happens? When irritation arises, can you feel it before the story forms? When fear whispers, can you breathe before reacting? Every microsecond of awareness you insert between trigger and reaction reopens the quantum gap. Tesla intuited a 0.3 second portal between repetition and renewal. Your next challenge is not to suppress reaction, but to witness it. To see the pattern forming in real time and choose coherence instead of contraction. This is the turning point where physics becomes practice, where the observer effect leaves the laboratory and enters your everyday life. Because when you learn to observe without collapsing, the loop dissolves. You stop repeating your past and the field begins offering you possibilities that never existed before. The crisis isn't the pattern, it's forgetting that you can realign. And that's where we're heading next, into the quantum idea itself, where observation and creation merge, and where Tesla's greatest lesson. Frequency as consciousness reveals its living truth within you. Imagine that consciousness is not trapped inside your brain, but flowing through every atom around you, like invisible threads weaving matter into meaning. The ancients called it spirit, modern science calls it the field, but both point to the same invisible intelligence connecting every point of existence. The quantum field isn't out there somewhere in space. It's here within the quiet space between one thought and the next. Tesla understood this intuitively. He knew the field was not a backdrop to life, but life itself responding to consciousness like a living mirror. When we speak about the observer effect, we're not talking about subatomic particles politely waiting for your approval to exist. We're talking about the most intimate law of existence. Reality reflects the state of the one who perceives it. The moment you observe something, your awareness collapses, a wave of potential into a single tangible experience. Every time you choose to see limitation, you collapse infinite probability into that limitation. Every time you choose coherence, trust, stillness, love, you open a new probability path. Observation is not passive, it's participation. Think of your awareness as a tuning fork vibrating within a vast orchestra. When you vibrate with coherence, nearby frequencies align automatically. This is why one calm person can steady a crowded room, or why a single voice of clarity can dissolve confusion. The field reorganizes itself to match the dominant vibration. But most people oscillate between contradictory frequencies. They pray for peace while worrying about outcomes. They visualize abundance while breathing scarcity. Their signal wavers flickering between harmony and noise. The field, being responsive, returns a mixed reality, half miracles, half repetition. When you experience coherence, it feels like time slows down. There's no hurry yet, everything aligns effortlessly. You notice subtle connections, how a thought about someone makes them call, how an idea emerges precisely when it's needed. These aren't coincidences, they're field responses. The field reorganizes probability around the observer's coherence. Incoherence scatters energy outward, but coherence gathers it into form. That's why Tesla could visualize entire machines operating flawlessly in his mind before building them. His inner coherence was so precise that matter simply followed instruction. This doesn't mean you need to invent light bulbs or turbines. It means that your life is your invention. Each morning, the field asks, what frequency will you broadcast today? If you wake in frustration, the field echoes, frustration through faces, emails, delays. If you wake in stillness, it arranges circumstances to preserve that state. The field's job is not to reward or punish you, it's to stay coherent with your broadcast. In this sense, the universe is perfectly faithful. Tesla once said that energy, frequency, and vibration are the language of reality. You've been speaking that language unconsciously since birth. Every sigh, every heartbeat, every thought generates measurable waves that interact with the environment. Even your emotions radiate electromagnetic signatures. When you feel gratitude, your heart's field expands and becomes more ordered. When you dwell in fear, it contracts and fragments. You don't need to measure this with machines. You can feel it directly. Gratitude feels open. Fear feels closed. The difference you sense is the difference the universe senses. To live coherently, you must feel before you think. The intellect can analyze but not harmonize. The body, however, is a perfect translator of field states. When you feel resonance, goosebumps, calm, warmth, subtle tingling, it's your nervous system signaling that your internal vibration matches truth. When you feel tightness, dissonance, agitation, it's signaling misalignment. Tesla would sit in silence until his body felt the hum of rightness before acting. That hum wasn't imagination, it was entrainment with the field. You've been taught to chase external signs of success, but the real measure of mastery is coherence. Coherence means your heart, mind, and breath move as one rhythm. It means no internal argument, no hidden war between intention and fear. The more coherent you become, the more easily the field organizes around you. It's not about effort, it's about resonance. A single coherent tone can tune an entire instrument. Think about how light behaves in coherence. Incoherent light scatters in all directions. Coherent light becomes a laser capable of cutting through steel. The same principle applies to consciousness. Scattered thoughts exhaust you. Coherent awareness focuses your life force. In that focus, you don't fight circumstances, you illuminate them. The obstacles that once seemed solid begin to dissolve because you stop feeding them attention. You realize that what you observe with resistance persists, but what you observe with awareness transforms. Every emotion, every belief, every memory has a frequency signature. When you revisit painful memories without awareness, you reactivate their vibration. The field registers that as a command. Repeat this pattern. But when you observe those memories with compassion, the vibration changes. Compassion isn't sentimentality, it's coherence applied to pain. The field registers a new frequency and reorganizes the narrative. This is why forgiveness feels liberating. You're not erasing the past, you're re-encoding it. Tesla's secret was emotional neutrality. He didn't see failure as loss. He saw it as feedback from the field. Each apparent setback refined his frequency. He once said, "My brain is only a receiver. In the universe there is a core from which we obtain knowledge, strength, and inspiration. That core is coherence itself. It transmits clarity continuously. You just have to match its wavelength. When your inner noise quiets, that transmission becomes audible. It's not mystical, it's mechanical in the most elegant sense." To understand how this works emotionally, imagine a radio dial. Each state, fear, gratitude, anger, joy, occupies a frequency band. When you tune to fear, you hear only static about loss, threat, scarcity. When you tune to gratitude, the static dissolves, revealing a different song, the same world, different station. The world didn't change. Your tuning did. The observer effect operates precisely like that dial. You're never punished for being out of tune. You're simply deprived of clarity until you realign. Right now you can feel the field's subtle invitation align before midnight. Midnight is the symbolic 0 point, the moment the system refreshes its coordinates. If you carry incoherence across that threshold, the next cycle begins on the same vibration. But if you pause, breathe, and bring your system into harmony, the timeline shifts. This is not superstition, it's resonance physics in lived form. You can feel the difference instantly. One path feels heavy and predictable, the other light and expansive. Both exist simultaneously. Observation decides which one solidifies. So when Tesla said that energy, frequency, and vibration are the keys to understanding the universe, he wasn't giving a formula for machines, he was giving a formula for consciousness. You are the transmitter, the receiver, and the signal itself. And coherence, felt through the quiet, rhythmic breath, is your access code to the living field. Now that you understand the quantum idea emotionally, we'll travel back into an older language that carried this wisdom long before science gave it equations. Because the ancients didn't need laboratories to prove coherence, they built temples, practiced stillness, and encoded these truths into symbols that still whisper across time. And in their metaphors, sky and clouds, tree and breath, you'll recognize your own reflection. Long before Tesla's coils hummed or his mind tuned to the invisible frequencies of the cosmos, others had already felt that same vibration through symbols, temples, and breath. The ancients didn't call it the quantum field. They called it spirit, prana, ruach, or simply the breath of life. To them, this invisible current wasn't a theory. It was an experience, a communion between heaven and earth. Across Egypt, India, and the deserts of Judea, the same truth was whispered in different tongues. The breath is the bridge between the seen and the unseen. In the Egyptian mysteries, the priests of Ma'at spoke of balance, the delicate equilibrium that keeps creation from collapsing into chaos. They believed every action, every word, every exhale carried weight on the cosmic scales. Ma'at wasn't a goddess of punishment. She was the embodiment of coherence. Her feather symbolized perfect alignment between heart and truth. When a soul departed this world, it was said to be weighed against that feather. If the heart was light, free from distortion, fear, or deception, it rose. If heavy with imbalance, it descended not as punishment, but as recalibration. Think about that for a moment. To live by Ma'at was to live coherently with the field, to keep the inner and outer worlds balanced like Tesla, keeping his inventions in perfect resonance before they materialized. The Egyptians built their temples to echo this principle. Every chamber, every stone, every shaft of light was designed to harmonize with celestial order. They believed that when human architecture matched cosmic geometry, divine intelligence could flow through space unimpeded. In other words, coherence between structure and source opened portals of perception. You are built the same way. Your body is a temple aligned with celestial harmonics, your spine a living pillar, your breath the wind moving through sacred corridors, your heart the altar of coherence. When you breathe consciously, you're not merely inhaling air, you're aligning your inner architecture with universal order. You become a living temple of Ma'at, where balance itself becomes prayer. Far to the east, the Buddha offered a simpler, yet equally profound practice. He called it anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing. He taught that liberation isn't found through escape from the world, but through awareness of what is in each breath. When the mind wanders into the past or the future, the breath anchors it back to now, the only place where the field is accessible. The Buddha didn't speak of electrons or particles, but he described the same mechanism Tesla later glimpsed. Observation collapses potential into reality. To observe the breath is to stabilize the mind's wave function, to bring consciousness into coherence. In the Buddhist metaphor, your thoughts are clouds and your awareness the sky. The clouds form and dissolve, but the sky remains vast, silent, and clear. When you identify with the clouds, you suffer every storm. When you rest as the sky, you witness weather without being weathered by it. This teaching wasn't poetic comfort, it was physics translated through compassion. The sky doesn't fight the clouds, it allows them. In that allowance, peace arises. The Kabbalists of ancient Israel saw this same truth through another lens. They spoke of ruach and neshama, breath and soul, as the twin currents animating existence. They believed that each breath was a conversation between human and divine, an exchange of information through vibration. God breathed into man the breath of life, the Torah says, and the mystics understood this not as myth, but as ongoing transmission. Every inhale draws in divine intelligence. Every exhale offers your consciousness back to creation. Breath is the reciprocal act by which the infinite knows itself through the finite. In the Tree of Life, the Kabbalistic diagram mapping creation, each sephira represents a frequency, a note in the cosmic scale. When aligned, they form a perfect circuit between Heaven Keter and Earth Malkuth. Disruption in one branch affects the flow in all others. Isn't that the same principle Tesla discovered, when a single imbalance in resonance disrupted an entire electrical system? The ancients understood this thousands of years earlier. Harmony within one channel creates harmony in all. You might wonder why such ancient imagery matters now. Because your nervous system still responds to symbol and metaphor the way ancient minds did. When you visualize your heart as Mayat's feather, it naturally lightens. When you imagine your awareness as the sky, your thoughts lose gravity. When you sense breath as divine conversation, breathing becomes sacred again. These images bypass intellect and speak directly to the body-field connection. They remind you that alignment isn't something you achieve, it's something you remember. Every tradition in its essence taught the same architecture of coherence. The Egyptians called it balance, the Buddhists called it mindfulness, the Hebrews called it breath of spirit, Tesla called it frequency. Different languages for the same current, the same invisible bridge spanning mind and matter. The bridge is the breath and the traveler is awareness. When you step onto this bridge consciously, you begin to notice that reality itself feels responsive, almost intimate. The wind shifts when your mind calms. The world seems to breathe with you. The ancients weren't worshiping God separate from them. They were acknowledging the living field expressing itself through form. They lived in dialogue with the universe, not monologue. They didn't pray for miracles, they breathed them into being. Tonight, as midnight approaches, imagine yourself standing at that ancient threshold, the same one priests, monks, and mystics have stood upon for millennia. Behind you lies the known, the familiar loop. Ahead, the unformed potential waiting to be observed. Between them, the bridge of breath. Step onto it. Feel how every inhale draws you closer to coherence, and every exhale releases distortion. You're not performing ritual for the gods, you're performing alignment with the field. In the next section, we'll translate this metaphor into direct experience. You'll learn to anchor this ancient wisdom into modern practice, to use your breath, awareness, and stillness, as Tesla used circuits precisely, intentionally, and compassionately. Because coherence isn't achieved through belief, it's felt through embodiment. Let's turn metaphor into movement, thought into experience. You've listened long enough to ideas about coherence. Now your body must feel it. Because the intellect can understand the bridge, but only the breath can cross it. This is not meditation in the traditional sense, it's remembrance. It's the art of returning awareness to the place it has never truly left, the quiet center that Tesla lived, from the same still point the ancients worshipped in silence. Find a comfortable position where your spine feels naturally upright, not forced. Let your hands rest open as if holding nothing, yet ready to receive everything. Gently close your eyes, not to shut the world out, but to let your perception turn inward. Now take one deep inhale through the nose. Don't try to make it perfect. Just notice it. Let the air move downward, not just into your chest, but all the way into your belly. Feel the expansion there. Then exhale softly through the mouth, as if you were releasing a long-held note. That's one cycle, one conscious communication with the field. We'll call this the observer breath, 4 stages that correspond to how awareness shapes matter. Stage 1, notice. Stage 2, allow. Stage 3, observe. Stage 4, encode. On the next inhale, notice the air entering cool and effortless. Don't control it. Let it flow. On the exhale, allow your body to release any holding patterns, shoulders, jaw, stomach. Then observe what remains the stillness between breaths. That pause is sacred, the same quantum gap the Egyptian priests called the silence of Ra. In that silence without effort, your nervous system recalibrates, finally encode. Quietly intend that your next breath will carry coherence into your entire field. Don't force the thought. Let it feel like a soft whisper in the heart. I am aligned. Repeat this a few times now, each cycle slower than the last. If your mind wanders, let it. That's the river doing what rivers do. You are the riverbank, steady, unmoving, watching currents pass. Each time you return to awareness of breath, you strengthen the bridge between observer and observed. This simple act rewires decades of unconscious breathing. Modern physiology confirms what ancient mystics knew. When you breathe with awareness, the heart and brain begin to synchronize, producing a pattern scientists call coherence. But here we treat that not as data, but as devotion. After several minutes, you may begin to feel subtle sensations, gentle warmth in the chest, tingling in the fingers, lightness in the forehead. Don't chase them. They're signs of alignment, not goals. Simply observe. Tesla would call this the hum of the ether. The yogis would call it pranic flow. Whatever name you give it, it's the signature of coherence, the field resonating through your instrument. Let's refine it further with a micro protocol you can use throughout your day. Think of it as your daily recalibration sequence. Before you respond to an email, before you step into a conversation, before you cross a doorway, pause for 3 coherent breaths. First breath, notice. Feel where your awareness lives in your body. Second breath, soften. Let the tension drain from the point of focus. Third breath, intend. Whisper internally, I choose coherence. That's it. 3 breaths, less than 20 seconds. Yet in those seconds you move from reactive frequency to creator frequency. You've shifted from survival to awareness. Do this when anxiety strikes. Do it when excitement flares. Do it when nothing seems to happen at all. Over time, these brief recalibrations become more powerful than hours of forced meditation because they happen within life, not apart from it. You're training your field to remain coherent in motion, the true mark of mastery. Tesla didn't find his revelations in still caves. He found them in the heart of electric storms. You can do the same, learning to stand as the mountain amid motion, calm amid chaos. Let's add one more layer, the body scan of alignment. Start at the crown of your head. Imagine the inhale sweeping down through your spine like liquid light, collecting any residue of tension. On the exhale, visualize that residue dissolving through your feet into the earth. Continue down the body, neck, shoulders, chest, abdomen, hips, legs. Each exhale grounding what no longer serves your coherence. By the time you reach your feet, you'll feel anchored yet weightless, rooted yet spacious. Now feel the heart. Imagine it pulsing, not as a pump, but as a transmitter. With each beat, it emits an electromagnetic wave that extends far beyond your skin. On your next breath, feel gratitude, not forced gratitude for specific things, but the sensation of aliveness itself. Gratitude is the emotional frequency of coherence. It harmonizes the field instantly. You don't need to name it. Just let it hum quietly through the chest. Before we conclude this practice, an important reminder: this isn't therapy or treatment. It's education in awareness. If you experience discomfort, emotional release, dizziness, or tears, let them pass gently. These are simply energies leaving the body, the field reorganizing itself. Always return to the breath. Always return to the observer. You're safe within awareness. Open your eyes now. Notice how colors appear, subtly brighter, sound slightly clearer. That's coherence perception without interference. You didn't change the world. You changed your frequency within it. The field reflects that instantly. In the hours to come, test this in motion. While walking, synchronize your steps with slow, coherent breaths. While listening to someone, notice your breath pattern matching theirs, then gently lead it into calmness. While waiting in line, breathe as if your stillness were anchoring the entire room. These are micro-rituals of Tesla's principle in human form. Energy, frequency, vibration applied to consciousness. The ancients built temples to channel divine force. You carry that architecture within you. Each conscious breath polishes the walls of your inner sanctuary. Each moment of stillness aligns its pillars. Eventually, you'll realize the temple is always open, and you are both priest and visitor. Soon we'll translate this practice into transformation the moment you shift from victim of circumstance to creator of reality. You'll learn how this inner coherence shapes external outcomes, money relationships, leadership, and how Tesla's teachings echo through each. But for now, pause here. The field has registered your new signal. You've crossed the bridge from theory into embodiment. You've remembered how to breathe as the observer. Now that you've felt the field respond through the breath, we can step into the real alchemy, transforming coherence into creation. This is the point where your story begins to shift from being a passive character swept along by circumstance to becoming a conscious participant in the design of your life. Tesla lived from this awareness. He didn't invent in the ordinary sense. He translated invisible patterns into visible form. His genius wasn't intellect, it was alignment. He didn't chase results. He tuned himself to the frequency where results already existed, and you can do the same. The first truth to understand is that victimhood is not an attitude, it's a frequency. When you operate from it, the field mirrors back scenarios that confirm helplessness. You recognize it by its emotional texture, frustration, blame, anxiety. It feels like pushing against an unseen current. But the moment you shift into coherence through breath awareness or even a single pause, the current changes direction. Energy begins to flow toward you rather than against you. That's the point where victimhood dissolves and creation begins. To see how this works in practice, let's explore 3 scenes: money, relationship, and leadership. These are the arenas where the loop often hides most cleverly, where we confuse external validation with inner alignment. Scene 1. Money. Imagine you open your account and see a number that triggers contraction. The body tightens, breath shortens. The mind begins to narrate scarcity. You start calculating, projecting, fearing. In that instant, your field collapses around lack. You broadcast not enough. The universe, obedient as always, mirrors not enough. Now pause. Before reacting, breathe 3 coherent breaths. Notice where scarcity lives in your body, perhaps in the stomach or chest. Exhale from that space as if clearing static, then quietly affirm, not with words but with feeling. There is movement here. Energy is circulating. Money is just condensed energy responding to flow. When you breathe freely, circulation resumes, opportunities, ideas, unexpected calls. The field begins to reorganize around trust rather than tension. Tesla said, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy. Money is one of those energies. Treat it like current, not currency. Let it flow and it returns." Scene 2. Relationship. Every argument follows the same quantum pattern as every conflict in physics: 2 fields out of phase. When your energy clashes with another's, you perceive dissonance. Each person defends their waveform, insisting their perspective is truth, but the field only reflects vibration. Next time tension arises, don't aim to win the conversation. Aim to regulate your frequency. Before replying, breathe. Feel your heart expand by 2 centimeters. Literally imagine it. On the exhale, soften your jaw. This tiny act shifts your field's coherence. When you speak from that place, your tone changes, your timing changes, and reality rearranges accordingly. Sometimes the argument resolves. Sometimes silence does the work. Either way, you're no longer feeding incoherence. You've become the tuning fork that invites harmony without forcing it. Scene 3. Leadership. Whether you lead a team, a family, or a single creative vision, the same principle applies. Influence isn't imposed, it's transmitted. People don't follow ideas, they follow coherence. Tesla magnetized collaborators not by persuasion, but by vibration. He emanated certainty without arrogance, clarity without control. You can do the same. Before you make a decision or speak in front of others, pause for 1 steady inhale. Ask silently, is my energy aligned with what I'm about to create? If not, wait. The pause is not weakness, it's precision. When your inner field stabilizes, your outer results amplify. These 3 scenes share one truth: reality mirrors, state not story. Your story. The mental narrative will always justify the state you're in. If you feel fear, your mind will find reasons to validate it. If you feel coherence, your mind will find evidence of support. You don't need to wrestle with the story, you only need to shift the state. Tesla didn't argue with matter. He changed the frequency until matter complied. To apply this daily, create a small ritual before sleep. Recall the day's moments of contraction. Where did you lose coherence? Don't judge. just notice. Then imagine those moments dissolving in a gentle wave of light. On your inhale, draw in awareness. On your exhale, release the imprint. This rewrites the neural and energetic memory of the event. You'll wake lighter because you've decluttered your field. There's a paradox you'll discover here. When you stop striving to control returns effortlessly. When you stop trying to fix outcomes align naturally. That's not passivity, it's mastery. The observer doesn't withdraw from creation, it directs creation through stillness. This is the point where the victim's voice fades and the creator's voice emerges. The victim says, "Why is this happening to me?" The creator asks, "What is this showing me about my frequency?" You might notice synchronicities multiplying, the right person arriving at the perfect time, obstacles dissolving without confrontation. These aren't rewards, they're resonances. The field recognizes your alignment and adjusts its choreography. It's Tesla's wireless energy translated into consciousness. Your coherence is the transmitter, your reality the receiver. This shift also changes how you use willpower. The old model said, push harder, force results. The quantum model says align deeper, then act from clarity. Tesla could rest in contemplation for days, then act in one decisive hour that accomplished more than years of labor. The difference wasn't talent, it was alignment. When you act from coherence, action becomes effortless, almost preordained. Now take a slow breath and feel what's changed in you since you began this journey. The mind is quieter. The body feels less defensive. The space around you feels slightly charged, almost luminous. That's not imagination, it's coherence. You've stopped pushing against the field and started collaborating with it. You've begun to remember that your consciousness is not local, it's holographic, touching everything it perceives. In the next section, we'll explore the deeper layer of this realization, the philosophical and human meaning behind it. Because coherence isn't just a personal practice, it's an art of living with dignity, belonging, and stillness in a world addicted to noise. You'll see that your calm doesn't separate you from humanity, it connects you to it. Stillness, as Tesla and the sages knew, is not escape, it's contribution. There's a quiet dignity in coherence. It doesn't seek attention. Yet everything around it feels more ordered in its presence. It's the dignity of a candle that doesn't compete with darkness, it simply shines. Tesla lived this way. He wasn't performing for admiration or chasing wealth. His fulfillment came from touching the invisible and giving it form, from being a bridge between mind and cosmos. When asked where his ideas came from, he said, "My brain is only a receiver." That statement wasn't modesty, it was precision. He knew consciousness was a field, and the more still his mind became, the clearer the signal. In a world that measures worth by noise and speed, stillness might seem like retreat. But true stillness is not withdrawal, it's a higher form of participation. It's the act of becoming so aligned with the field that your very presence becomes creative. Think of a musician who stops striving to impress and instead becomes one with the instrument. The music that follows feels inevitable, timeless. That's coherence made audible. You can live the same way, not performing coherence, but being it. Every conversation, every pause, every choice becomes an unspoken art form. There's also humility in this realization. When you see how the field responds to your frequency, you understand that everyone else is broadcasting too. Their fear, their confusion, their joy, all ripples in the same ocean. You begin to treat others differently. Judgment softens. Empathy deepens. You no longer need to fix or convert anyone. You simply hold your coherence steady. Some will rise to meet it, others will not. Both are part of the dance. You learn that belonging doesn't mean matching frequencies. It means honoring every vibration as part of the cosmic spectrum. When you look around the world, you may see chaos, wars, disconnection, the endless hum of distraction. But look closer. Beneath the noise, a silent recalibration is happening. More people are pausing, breathing, sensing the field's presence within their own bodies. They might not call it quantum or spiritual. They just feel the pull towards stillness. This collective slowing is not regression, it's evolution in disguise. Every coherent being becomes a stabilizing node in the human network, anchoring a new form of intelligence, compassion as physics, empathy as resonance. In this new understanding, meaning returns to ordinary life. The cup of tea, the shared glance, the morning sunlight on a wall all become mirrors of coherence. You realize that enlightenment was never meant to be an escape from the world, but a way of being in it with full awareness. The field doesn't ask you to transcend humanity. It asks you to illuminate it from within. Tesla's towers reached toward the sky, but their purpose was to transmit energy across the earth. That's your task too, to translate inner voltage into outer light. Stillness becomes your public art. You don't need galleries or followers. Your life itself is the canvas. When you walk calmly through a tense crowd, you're sculpting the atmosphere. When you listen deeply to someone in pain without trying to fix them, you're composing harmony. When you forgive silently, you're reprogramming the field. These small acts carry enormous weight in the subtle architecture of reality. The field notices because coherence amplifies itself through attention. There's freedom in realizing you don't have to change the world. You only have to be aligned within it. Change follows alignment naturally. The mountain doesn't campaign for the valley to rise, it simply stands and rivers adjust their course. You can embody that same effortless influence. When you live from coherence, your success stops being measured in outcomes and begins being measured in resonance. Did you leave the space clearer than you found it? Did your presence create calm rather than chaos? That is mastery. And there's something profoundly human about this path. You're not escaping your imperfections, you're integrating them. Every shadow becomes an opportunity to refine your signal. Every heartbreak becomes a calibration tool. The goal isn't perpetual serenity, it's responsiveness. Just as Tesla's circuits required alternating current flowing back and forth between poles, so too does consciousness oscillate between stillness and motion. The art is to remain aware through both. When coherence deepens, identity softens. You no longer cling to rigid roles: parent, professional seeker, victim, hero. You begin to sense yourself as fluid awareness moving through temporary forms. This doesn't make you detached. It makes you compassionate. Because you see the same awareness in every face. You realize that the field playing through you is the same field playing through everyone. Life stops being competition and becomes communion. Eventually, words like success or failure lose their sting. You start measuring your days not by what you achieved, but by how present you were. Did you breathe consciously when tension arose? Did you return to awareness after forgetting? Did you remember even for a moment that the field was listening? That's all that's ever asked. Each remembrance strengthens the coherence grid of humanity. This is what it means to live as a Tesla of consciousness, to tune yourself so precisely to the hum of existence that your life becomes an instrument of peace. You become both receiver and transmitter of the universal current. You rediscover the sacred simplicity of being aware, breathing balanced. In this understanding, you no longer seek meaning, you emanate it. Stillness becomes not the absence of power, but power itself. And the most beautiful truth of all emerges: you were never out of alignment to begin with. You only forgot the rhythm of your own breath. In the final part, you'll ritualize this remembering. We'll breathe together, synchronize our coherence, and seal it with a declaration that aligns your frequency with the field itself, because truth once embodied must be lived, and breath is how we live it. Before we close this transmission, return to your breath. Let the noise of thought fade like waves receding from the shore. There's nothing to fix now, nothing to prove. Just you, the rhythm of breath, and the field listening. Take one slow inhale through the nose. Feel the air travel downward, soft and round, expanding your chest, your ribs, your belly. Hold it for a brief moment, the sacred gap, then exhale gently through the mouth. Feel the release. That's one coherent breath. Again, inhale. Sense the stillness behind movement, the quiet awareness watching even the act of breathing. Pause. Notice the small silence that follows, then exhale. And once more. Inhale softly. Feeling gratitude rise. Hold that gratitude for a heartbeat. Exhale completely, letting everything unnecessary dissolve. 3 breaths, 3 bridges. You've just tuned yourself to coherence. Now place your attention in your heart, not as anatomy, but as the luminous center of perception. Imagine this heart as a sphere of light radiating 8 feet in every direction. With each beat, this field expands, wrapping everything around you: objects, people. Even silence itself in calm clarity. It's not fantasy. It's physics felt as love. Tesla would call this the resonance point. The ancients would call it the soul. Whatever name you choose, feel it vibrate, as one with the field. A single word will now serve as your anchor, your chosen frequency. Choose it intuitively without overthinking. Perhaps it's peace, perhaps trust, or clarity, or presence. The word doesn't matter, the vibration does. Whisper it silently within I choose to bike. Let that word fill the space between breaths like a note sustaining an infinite echo. This becomes your declaration, your energetic signature, the pattern you broadcast to the universe. Now speak it in your mind one final time, but with awareness as the observer. I choose to your word as the observer. Feel how the phrase shifts you instantly. You're not doing the choosing. You are the choosing. You're not trying to become the observer. You're recognizing that you always were. That's the moment the test ends. Alignment replaces effort. The frequency stabilizes. The field acknowledges your coherence. Stay here for a few breaths longer. The air around you feels slightly charged like dawn after a storm. That's not imagination, it's your field reorganizing. The stillness inside you is the eye of creation itself, calm and alive, watching everything move yet untouched by motion. Now imagine countless others across continents and timelines taking these same breaths. People you've never met yet connected through this unseen frequency, their hearts pulsing in resonance with yours, together forming a global web of coherence. That's the collective experiment Tesla dreamed of, energy transmitted not through towers but through consciousness. When one person breathes coherently, the world subtly reorganizes. When many do, the world transforms. So as you finish this ritual, carry the practice with you. Before midnight, before tomorrow, before every new beginning pause, breathe, realign. You don't need hours of meditation or sacred retreats. 3 conscious breaths can change your entire field. A single moment of awareness can rewrite your timeline. And if this message resonates, stay connected not to content, but to this frequency. Subscribe not just to a channel, but to the vibration of coherence itself. Let each video, each word, each pause remind you of the truth. You are the field observing itself. This isn't farewell, it's transmission. Each time you return here, you return to yourself. Each time you breathe consciously, you rejoin the universal rhythm that Tesla, the sages and the mystics all tuned into. You become both witness and creator, both silence and sound, both particle and wave. Now take one last inhale, steady, slow, luminous. Hold it for a moment of reverence. And as you exhale, whisper to yourself, stillness is not the absence of power. Stillness is power itself. The bridge is open. The field is listening. You are aligned. Subscribe to this frequency.